Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Classic Quest podcast. And this is our bonus episode. So, my name is HSR.
I am your lady friend Bonnie.
And I am Prophetry Hip Hop. What's up, Internet?
Yeah, so Chris is at work, and I'm off work. So, we did this whole extra episode with the extra time that was given to us. If you don't care about anything in particular, in the description you'll see a full breakdown of the track list when we start talking about the album and whatnot. But why I bring that up is because I wanted to just mention this little contest thing we have running. It's called the Grind to 1,000 subscribers, and the whole point is to try to get to 1,000 subscribers, hopefully before the new year.
So subscribe and tell your friends.
And then if you subscribe and then you like the video and you put a comment related to the video or the review, the album, and something, just showing that you watched it in some way or another, then you get a chance to win some Amazon gift money. All the information is actually going to be in the bottom of the description. And for every video you like and comment on, you get extra opportunities to win. And we're talking like $100 for the first place and a couple more other stuff. And Sid wants us to offer like free album review request stuff, and so we're working into making this interesting. So yeah, we are not sure when this comes out because as you can see, we're reviewing Eminem's Infinite, and we decided we just want this to come out around when Revival comes out. So it's just been sitting in the computer waiting until that happens. So wow, awesome! Everyone is excited for Revival. It finally came.
Woot! Wow, I'm so happy that Revival came out today.
Yeah.
Or
Yay.
like a couple days ago. We don't even know. It's just the future.
The wait is on.
We have all. Yeah. So it is clearly like today. It's November 21st. That's when we recorded this.
Yeah.
So in the future, when you're seeing this, yeah, we all wanted to kind of go back. I know we've done a few extra Eminem ones, but come on, he's dropping a new album. It's exciting, and you all seem to really like it when we do Eminem reviews. So we figured we go way back to the super beginning. I mean, not the super. There's even more if we want to go digging further. The first of his solo career projects, we'll call it.
Yeah.
And we got this to come out and talk about. I don't know. So we're all Eminem fans, I imagine. It's safe to say.
Yeah. I mean,
somebody else want to say stuff, so it's not just me talking the whole time.
So basically, I mean, my first experience with Eminem was when I was in elementary school. I was in like grade 5 or 6, and I remember it was like the thing we weren't supposed to listen to.
Yep.
And on the playground, my friend Matthew was like, "You have to listen to this," and he showed me like Stan, and some other songs, and it was like, whoa! It was like mind-boggling, And I probably, this is like probably a pretty generic, commonplace white rapper thing, but Eminem is the artist who brought me into rap. Before Eminem, I didn't listen to rap, and afterwards, I expanded my taste to a lot of other artists, but he is the person who at a very young age showed me what it could be and got me excited about it.
Yeah. I loved it. I didn't know about this album, but definitely I had a similar experience. I was at summer camp, and my friend burnt me, or I guess not burnt me. She recorded me a cassette of I believe it was the Marshall Mathers LP.
Okay.
And I loved it, and it was the same thing. It was Stan. It had everything. It was great. And yeah, so it was probably my first rap too.
Yeah. I don't know if it was necessarily the first rap I'd listened to, because there was other rap that I had heard prior to Eminem. Like, I can have memories of Dr. Green Thumb before I have memories of Eminem. Even though I didn't listen to it anyway, I just have memories of it. But then
I think at that time I was mostly listening to the Spice Girls. So
my dad had this friend who would play a lot of rap music, and I thought he was cool because he was younger than my dad, but older than me, but in that range that was cool adult, not like parent adult.
Right.
And so whatever, he had a bunch of stuff, and then I don't know, we talked a lot about how we liked Eminem. If you haven't already checked it, in the corner you can see the Marshall Mathers LP review, the first one we did, where we gave a bunch more details. But The Eminem Show is an awesome one for me. I totally freaking love that album. It's my favorite one. So I got hooked on that one in high school and expanded from there. We reviewed that one. That one's also in the corner. Check it out. And then we kind of went around. And what I noticed about Infinite, because like this one, I did actually encounter it around 18, 19 years old and whatnot.
Oh, really?
When you really dig into it, because YouTube appeared when I was in college. The whole music world just kind of appeared. I don't think I really listened to it at first, but I did know a lot of people who were kind of like, this is his best album because he's the most lyrical and he's the most this. Kind of like Eminem sold out. You know those people who like only ever like the underground work an artist does before they ever actually get a career?
Yeah.
So that kind of crowd.
I don't think it's sold out. I think it's just, it gives you like a different perspective on things. And
I mean, it was, and we'll get more into this later.
Yeah.
I think Infinite was a playground for Eminem to try out different things and help him learn who he was.
yeah,
Still-
well, he was M and M before, wasn't he?
And before that, he was double M.
Oh, which makes
Yeah.
sense.
And then, but yeah, he was playing around with his style. He clearly hadn't defined the Slim Shady character. And as you can see over there, we reviewed the Slim Shady LP review as well. Okay, now I plugged all the Eminem reviews we've done. So in case you missed one, and you're curious,
Definitely go check them out too. But after you finish watching this one.
Yeah, or you can watch them in the order we did them, or however you want to do this. You're the boss. You're in charge. We're just giving you the options available. Yeah, so kind of what ended up listening to most of it. At one point, I bought this CD on eBay that was rare Eminem tracks, from a bunch of them from scattered of the demo tapes, the older stuff, the Infinite tracks, etc. I didn't know what was what. A couple of them I recognized today when I was listening to it. Yeah, this might be my first time really giving the whole album a listen to. I've definitely heard the title track multiple times before because it circulates. People play it for you and stuff. But
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's ever played it before for me. So, I mean, this was definitely the first time I got to experience it. And it's surprisingly good. Like, not surprisingly, but I mean, it's still Eminem and he's still talented.
And then the cover.
Hold on, I wanted to just my first experience with.
Oh, so sorry.
So my first experience with Infinite was when I was in high school. I had some friends. Actually, Sid was one of them. Sid went to high school with me, and we both talked about Infinite and how it was like a surprisingly impressive work by Eminem that didn't get any attention. And my view on it has changed a little bit. Back then, I was a little bit more impressed with it. I think the one thing that you have to give it credit for is that it's an album that was very ahead of its time. I mean, it came out in '96, and Eminem's doing stuff that wouldn't become standard or mainstream for years afterward.
But it's also stuff that, if you really look at what was happening in the underground at the time, it wasn't exactly new. He was just doing it really well.
Yes. But there was a few albums from it, or songs from Infinite, that I really liked, and I had those songs that I was like playing on loop, and then the rest of the album I was like, so on.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about the cover and the title for a quick minute.
Yep.
I like this cover. It's so fucking simple. It's just like the stars, but like on a chalkboard, and Eminem Infinite.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, it's got no like elaborate. What's interesting is how the E isn't backwards yet.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
E's
See, he's still
forwards.
growing and figuring out who his character, or who his, alter ego is.
But I particularly love the title of the album, just because like it really is about exploring the possibilities and like reaching potentials, and you can just see like his state of mind. He still believes everything is possible, even with the title of the album. And it's fucking, I don't know, I really dug it.
Yeah. It's nice, yeah. I don't have much to say about it beyond it's simple and for where he was at back then, I think that's a really good choice.
And is it a chalkboard, or is it like spray paint? It
could
looks
be
like it
spray
could be
paint.
spray paint, and I think that's like maybe interesting. Like maybe like the dots are just like bits of spray.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I mean, it is like gritty and like urban, I guess, still in its like minimalism-ish stuff. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
That's fair. All right, let's jump into this review.
All right.
It might be shorter than the last few we've recorded.
Well, shorter than the album short to start with. So
yeah, Infinite is the first track.
Before we
Before
start on that, I just wanted to give a little like very brief context here. So Eminem, when this album drops, is 24 years old in
Yeah.
1996.
I had to do the math because I couldn't find it anywhere, like what age he was, and I had to like
yeah.
Google when he was born.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I was curious, and I wanted to know where he was at in his life. So I did like some background research. So he had been rapping at this point, at least like publicly, for 8 years. He had been in 3 different rap groups that I could find out about, and had worked with, some of these guys repeatedly. On this album, his producer consistently throughout the album is actually Denon Porter, who is better known by D12 fans as Con Artist, who produced the whole things, and then Proof came in and did the drum machine. So like the drum beats are Proof. The melody production is all Denon Porter, and then it's Eminem rapping. So this is actually almost interestingly kind of a tie-in to D12 later.
And it was recorded all with like tapes, and like on vinyl and stuff. So it wasn't anything like new. It wasn't CDs. It was just done with like cassettes, and so it wasn't the greatest, but it was still well done for, I guess, what it was. And yeah, and he also sold it out of the back of his car, out of like the trunk of his car. He sold this like all the albums, and I think it was only like 1,000 sold, and you can't find it like online to buy anywhere.
Yeah, it's very rare.
Yeah.
So,
Imagine what it's worth today.
Yeah.
probably worth a lot.
All right, but yeah, no, that context is cool. And then, I didn't really realize he'd been so active for that many years beforehand.
Yeah, since he was 16.
Yeah.
Like it, but you don't really place it on a timeline. Like you don't really realize he's 20. Like a lot of these, Jay-Z, a lot of these guys started late. Like,
Yeah, well,
these guys got famous when they were young. They were all like mid-20s and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he recorded this when he was 23. So when he wrote it, it must have been, prior to that too. So I mean, it's
During
just
that
interesting.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, all we can say is Eminem's probably definitely going to be an Infinite artist.
It's true.
This is the season for noise pollution, contamination, examination of more cartoons.
I dig it. This is a pretty cool album. So the first thing to say about this album, and there's a first thing, is everything you think about Eminem, just take the hat off, pretend it's another rapper. Just pretend it's not even Eminem, and you will probably enjoy this album a hell of a lot more than if you go
100%.
into this with like your preconceived Eminem that you are accustomed to. I mean, the rhyming's all there, but man, is this some positive shit here, right? Like that's my first thought, is the tone on this is so upbeat, but he's confident, he knows what's up. He feels like this whole song I could be wrong, but it feels like it's just all about like understanding your potential and the concept, like what he had to do to get there. He sees it all on the table, he's like going for it. Ridiculous rhyming, and everything fucking rhymes. Like almost everything rhymes with itself. Like my acapella releases classic masterpieces through telekinesis. It eases you mentally, gently, sentimentally, instrumentally, with entity dementedly meant to be infinite. Like,
yeah,
He still got it.
like holy shit. Like, or like, I don't know. I was thinking of you when I heard how he fucked up the word narration, and he goes narration just to make it like fit the rhyme scheme.
Yeah, his flow is dope, right? And like the opening lines of it, even my pen and paper cause a chain reaction to get your brain relaxing. The zaniac and maniac in action, a brainiac in fact, son. You meanly lack attraction. You look insanely whack with just a fraction of my tracks run. It's like the flow that he has, and even the vocabulary and the choice of words that he has is already like very good. You compare him to anyone else who comes onto this album, and he is pretty far ahead of, I think, all of them, except there may have been one who is able to sort of keep up with him a little bit. So
it's just his addiction to rhyming.
Well, he's
like,
just great. I mean, like no matter what it is, like he's putting it out there, and his rhymes are tight, and he's kind of coming off and saying, "This is who I am," and like.
It's interesting because it loses like it's like all the show that is Eminem that comes into the songs later on is gone, and it's like this bare bones, I'ma just rhyme better than you approach. I also put down like Here to make a mess of a lyric smuggling embezzler. No one is special. My skill is intergalactical. I get cynical, actiful, then I send the crew back to school. I'm just like, you can just see how he even recognizes that he's leaps and bounds above other people within the way he sees things and perceives it. And like
he's gonna get there. He's gonna be
like,
great.
Looking at these rhymes in 2020 hindsight, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he had no idea. He really didn't. But when you look at it now, it's like, well, he kind of believed he could. And if there was
he more than like kind of believed it. He believed
but it's
it.
like if there was ever like the living example of if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you could move mountains in our modern generation. It might be Mr. Slim Shady. Is all I'm trying to say. And the beat's smooth.
Well, he sounds like a lot like you can hear a lot of Nas's influence, like in his music and in this song in particular. Like just like the things that he says, the way that he rhymes. Like just like the background, everything. It sounds like Nas a bit, and like it. I mean, they came out around the same time. Obviously, he was a big influence on him, and it's definitely at least at the beginning. And I think he goes and references that Nas is better than him anyways, and he just wants to live up to like that kind of standard, and he's like setting it like right from the start, and it's great. He's talking about he's gonna keep rapping and he's gonna just keep doing what he does, and I think that's. Yeah, he kills it. He does amazing rhymes.
Yeah. If I was to like come in and try to find stuff to criticize, right? It's it's really hard. Like Eminem, Eminem for this time competes with future Eminem in hindsight, and that's the problem. Like when we look at this album, some of the things that are missing that really came to define Eminem are his emotional delivery style, where he would express strong emotions that would get the audience invested. And this is before that. So he's.
I kind of feel it on this one. Like I think Infinite.
Maybe not on this song.
This particular track, I feel it. It's just that the emotion being expressed is unlike the other ones.
Right.
It's so positive and like. He doesn't maybe have the melodrama behind it for something like I'm Not Afraid, but it's still in that same vein of I can do anything. And what I was noticing is the sincerity and hope in his voice. Like in this track in particular, like I feel Infinite listening to it. Like I get right behind him. Like maybe the hook is a little bit underselling it. Okay, it's 96. Hip hop's in a very different place when it comes to hooks in general, right? Like it's that or some R&B shit is how I understand the options were, or a DJ scratching, like
yeah.
And so I'm okay with that. I gave this a 5 for real.
Really?
I feel this track. I think the rhyming is beyond impeccable. It's one of the strongest performances of actual rhyming on this album.
Yeah.
And if you want to look at just Eminem as a raw rhymer, yeah, there's Lose Yourself and there's great examples of rhyming, but not quite like this. This is like Eminem on real hip hop shit, like real.
Well, at the very beginning, he had to impress you. It's, and the only thing he had were his words, and so this is when he really was trying to impress you with just his words. And then once you get to know him and like his growth or whatever, he doesn't have to. He still obviously does it with his words, but like he doesn't have to show off so much or try. Like he obviously still tries hard, but like he doesn't have to do it because this is the point where he's trying to grind and he's trying to like be like, this is what I've got. I'm putting it all out. So I don't know. I gave it a 5 on 5 as well.
I also really love this beat. I feel like the beat creates this almost infinite loop in your head, and you just kind of get lost in it. And it's basically the only beat on the album I love.
Huh.
And in general, like this is to me like. If I were to say there was a single or like a real banger, it would be this. Now, unfortunately, I don't hate the rest of the album, but it really does kind of, from this point on, nothing else recaptures the moment or the magic of what I felt listening to Infinite. Like, actually, when Infinite came on, I was like, whoa.
It's pretty good.
I don't feel as strongly about it as you guys do. It's definitely one of my preferred songs on the album. And I'll say this now, that my criticism is for this album is a little bit more on the production side of things than it is on the writing side of things or rap side of things. I still feel like Eminem, improves dramatically after this.
Yes, of course.
But I like the writing of this album for what it's worth, and I think it's the delivery is entertaining. But for me, I have a hard time giving this a very high mark for the reason of like, even as one of the better produced songs on this album, I still don't think the production here is great.
That's fair.
I think it is
But it's
adequate.
It's got that kind of griminess to it that I can appreciate. Because one thing I forgot to mention is he also establishes he's a battle rapper here to body MCs. And when you really look at it from the frame of maybe some of that Shaolin style, like the art of the MC, just that era, a lot of albums had that gritty, grimy sound to it.
But I mean, also they were, for the most part, pretty poor. And like this is what he was working
I
with, and
agree
he
that
just
the
did it.
production isn't stellar, but on this song in particular, it kind of worked. Like it had its sounds, to me at least, had its sound polished. Let's say this song would have lost some of the luster of what made it magical, because it is dude on the grind trying to make it.
Yeah, I feel that. Still, I'm gonna give it a 3.8, and
Okay.
I enjoyed it. I mean, this is one of the ones that I like the most, but it's still, for me, it's
No, it's
phone
cool.
locked up and I couldn't get the transition word.
It's W.E.G.O. W.E.G.O.
We go on.
Your soul and tip checking in #1, baby, this week. You know what I'm saying?
For this one, We Go, this interlude, I don't have too much to say, but the one thing I'll drop that I think is interesting is that they reference Soul Intent, which was the final of the groups that Eminem was in, with Proof, before he did this solo debut.
It is Proof doing the talking,
Yeah.
so that makes sense. And apparently it's their parody of local radio ads, and they were particularly unhappy with local radios because they did not want to play their music in general. So it was them kind of
They did play one of the songs, but I mean, it's understandable. I mean, unless this was like a small radio, I mean, I don't
no,
think
but this
these
wasn't
guys...
like a real. Well, yeah, but like this one. What I also thought it was really interesting is because it gave Eminem the chance to have somebody introduce him. Like,
Yeah.
It was all like, here's Eminem with his new song, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It was almost like you had Infinite where Eminem proves himself as an MC. And then the placement of this I thought was really well. Right after Proof comes in, his hype man, his number
Right.
2, does this little fake radio thing and drops down his introduction. And I thought that the placement was pretty swell. Flows right into the next track. I don't have a lot more to add to this.
Well, I would say one other thing, which is there's an interview that Denon Porter, a.k.a. Con Artist, did in 2012 where he mentions that for Infinite, one of the things that they were really going for was trying to get radio play. That was like an intentional aim, which is why the songs are very toned down from what we come to expect from Eminem later. And that's because they're trying to make songs that have, as few cuss words as possible so that they can throw them on the radio if they get the chance.
And there's not that political side of things like so much yet, like there's a lot of things that he talks about, but it's mostly just about like battle rapping and like showing off how good he is. I mean, there's stories in between, but there's not like the political side of things. So that makes sense that he's not, putting that on the radio right away.
Fair enough. It's okay, everyone. It's okay.
Is able to crawl. I'm too stable to fall. The pressure motivates to know I hold the weight of.
I love the way this one starts lyrically, because it's again, like you're looking at this, and like we've talked about all sorts of different Eminem lately, and it's like, one day I plan to be a family man, happily married. I want to grow to be so old that I have to be carried till I'm glad to be buried and leave this crazy world and have at least $500,000 for my baby girl. And it's just so weird to hear Eminem say that, right?
But before this, he had, like, I think a suicide attempt. So I think it's, like, a really big, like, change that he was thinking about this sort of, like, he wants to keep living and he wants to live until he's really old. And he's over that, like, maybe, like, depressive, side that he had.
I'd like to interject that it could be that I am mistaken, but I believe the suicide attempt was directly after this album because the album bombed so heavily that it took a lot of the hope that he had away for a while.
Okay. Makes sense.
But that was something when I was looking into it. It was kind of a little bit elusive. If our audience knows when Eminem's suicide attempt was and over what reasons, please leave it in the comments below. But I do think it was after this album, and
I think it's kind of like, wasn't it like somewhere around when he wrote Rock Bottom, and like it was related, or was that something different?
It could be. I mean, it's got to be. My impression, and this is like not fully backed by factual information, but it's backed by little pieces that I saw here and there. My impression is he made Infinite. Infinite did not succeed as he had hoped it would. He was super disappointed, had a suicide attempt, and then kind of came back reborn as Slim Shady, which is why the Slim Shady EP came out
interesting.
a year or less later.
Right.
That makes sense. I mean, it sucks. I mean, he killed himself like when he had a child on the way or whatever.
Succeed,
But I mean, it's I know.
Yeah,
I know it
that's
sucks.
an interesting point. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, he knew that his kid was being born or was born when it happened, and I don't know. I think that sucks, but I mean, I guess it happens when you're depressed and you don't really think about these kinds of
That
things.
seems like a markedly non-Eminem thing to do. So it's possible you're right. Audience, let us know.
It happened before she was pregnant.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
But this track also has Eye-Kyu on the chorus.
Yeah.
Who's doing that really Nas-like, bouncing back and forth, feel good.
Yeah.
Like, this whole track is, again, like, it's gonna be okay and stuff, and he's just trying to,
Well, there's a lot of like he's struggling with a lot of what's going
He's
on in
like-
his
he's
life,
like-
and then he
but, like, his
sees that he's going to grow.
perspective is so good. I don't know, like, caught up in bouts with the root of all evil. I've seen it turn beautiful, people crude and deceitful. Make them do shit illegal for these grants and Jacksons. These transactions explain a man's actions. He's talking about, like, stuff like the money, influence and stuff. But at the end of the day, then he's got stuff like my little brother's just trying to learn mathematics. He's asthmatic, running home from school, away from crack addicts. Kids attract static, children with automatics. Taking target practice on teens with starter jackets. And so, but like, yeah, so with that chorus, you have all the uplifting and the joy, and then the verses are laying down.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I can see it now. As I'm describing it, I'm like, this really does sound like some of the stuff on Illmatic that was just really like context-setting verses with hopeful hooks. Yeah, I can see it.
I mean, that is the biggest criticism that I think Eminem tends to receive for this stage of his career. And, my counter-argument, which I mentioned before outside of the filming to Holden, was that I think that this was a period of growth for Eminem. And as an artist, I recognize that when you're trying to figure out what your style is, what makes you unique, you do a lot of experimental stuff, and a big part of that is trying out what the people you look up to the most do and trying to do it just like they do. And once you get there, you kind of realize that you need to go your own path and figure out something different, which Eminem did eventually do. So I just see this as a period of growth for him. But it's definitely true that you get this sense that he's taking inspiration from Nas here.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not to even say it's bad. I think the rhyming is impeccable, but the beat is kind of not as impeccable.
No, the production is not as good as Infinite.
And like the chorus, it doesn't really do it for me. I mean, I like the words, but really...
Well, I mean, that was Eye-Kyu that was singing the chorus. I think that he was all right. I mean, it wasn't
It was
bad.
no disrespect to it. It's just that it felt like, again, like kind of like on Infinite, but Infinite, the track suited it better. They just needed, to me, a little bit more of an upbeatness to it, and everything just kind of felt a little on the flatter end of energy on this particular track for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I found that it was one of those songs where if I'm focusing, it's amazing, but there was nothing to really engage me with it. So when I sat down and I paid attention, I'm like, wow, his rhymes are good. But really, I'm left with a 3.5 because I can't call this a great song or anything. It's a good song. It's amazing for like his first album of solo stuff. It's good for where it's at.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I could never see myself really listening to this again.
Well, I would say that I think this song is conceptually more interesting than Infinite. The production isn't there, but it does have a more concrete concept. And this is a little trend that I noticed throughout this album where Eminem kind of jumps back and forth between these styles that he's trying out. One of them being a style that I think would be the thing that he's almost the most renowned for, which is his narrative storytelling abilities.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
this song really does that. And whereas Infinite does not. This one has this ongoing kind of story. One day I plan to be a family man, happily married. I want to grow to be so old that I have to be carried till I'm glad to be buried and leave this crazy world and have at least $500,000 for my baby girl. He's going on and he's telling this story. And it's something that he hasn't perfected yet, but you can kind of see the seeds there. So for me, this is a 3.6 because the production just isn't great. But I do think that this is, in other ways, a little bit more impressive than Infinite.
Cool. I give this one a 4 on 5. I liked it. I liked the sound. I thought it sounded good. It obviously wasn't great. It didn't hit that level, but it was good. One thing I just wanted to say that I thought was interesting, and I think it's probably, for me, the first time I've heard it, is that Eminem, I believe it's in like the second verse, he mentions that he said something about Christianity and about like following God. And I think that was the first time I've ever heard him talk about,
Totally.
any religion, or
Yeah.
anything that was of his own and where he came from and maybe his beliefs and, thought system. So I just thought that was kind of like an interesting thing that I had ever seen. He doesn't really rap about that. But yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, that's true. It almost sounded like he would use God to find salvation, and he'd like become a new Christian, is the way he framed it on this song, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, I guess we could talk about this, but then we'll be here till tonight.
Tonight.
Night, we don't wanna fight, we don't wanna, we're feeling uptight. 'Cause we came in to do
I love the way this track starts again. Like, I feel like almost the best lyrics in every song are the first bars to every song. Like, I'm getting mad love, I'm snuggling hugs, struggling thugs, smuggling drugs, juggling jobs, guzzling jugs. So here's a toast to federal checks, hetero sex, and affordable medical debts. It just goes on from there, and you're like, whoa. And then, like, you kind of get the feeling that this is a night out for Eminem as Eminem. Like, he's this rapper. And, like, you got his first verse where he's almost contextualizing who he is, his swag a little bit, meets some girl, takes her home. The second verse is just all about, like, rhyme biters. And he's going after
Well, people
the
are,
biters.
stealing his style. They're already copying him at this point. And he doesn't want to fight. He's the best. That's it. He's just killing it.
And then the third verse is like Eminem predicting his ascent to greatness and whatnot. So I thought it was a cool structure for a track, like who I am, what I'm dealing with now, and where I'm going to go. Kind of like just the past, present, future type deal, or present, future, super future. I don't know. But I don't know. Then it just lines like, I'm the rhyme biter, crime fighter, Cape Crusader, taking care of undeserving limelighters. And I'm like, damn. And like when he has these little rhyming things like that, and it's that he's able to come up with these new words that I'm not accustomed to hearing in hip hop. Not that they're new, but they're not the regular language that's employed in hip hop.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
He's saying a lot of the same things, so it's kind of almost exciting to hear what he has to do. I really like this track a lot more than the previous one.
And just to add a little to what Holden said there, I think that part of the appeal of Infinite, for the people who would say that this is his best work, because there are some people who think that, is that his focus was on flows, but also on vocabulary in a way that it never would be in the future. Like Eminem has always had a good sense for words and is, I think, pretty good with the vocabulary, but his focus later on, it centers more around trying to tell stories, which he does very well, but he stops worrying about, rhyming different words as much as possible. Whereas here we see an active attempt to try to figure out, there's
almost no redundancy.
Yeah, it's almost no redundancy. He has rhymes that you would not expect. Like he rhymes here, he goes, "You couldn't see me with binoculars. I'm armed like an octopus.
Yep.
Step on the stage and you'll get socked and pushed." That is like a very strange set of words. He's already figuring out how to bend rhymes in a way that other rappers didn't do and often still don't do that well.
Yeah,
and
that line, like I'm armed like an octopus, like that's so random and great.
I liked it. I feel like the overall beat and the energy of this track is just a little more alive. Like he's more into it. Like I feel like and it's almost like with Infinite too. It was more complex rhyming as opposed to storytelling, and he's more comfortable with it at this point. So he's able to sell it better. He's able to get into it better, and I felt the energy on this track was a lot stronger. I mean, it's totally not like the greatest shady track ever. It's not even a shady track. I guess shady doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
But it's still a good song. I gave this one a 4. I felt it was a step. Like this, I could go back and listen to, and it's just hearing the way he makes stuff rhymes. It juggles around your brain in a crazy fun way, and it was fun.
I mean, it is fun. I feel like Eminem is fun on this album in a number of different ways, and for me, the one issue I have 2 issues with this track. One, I felt that the production here was quite weak. I mean, like, it's got some keyboard. The drum machine here sounds a little too mechanical, and this is one of the on and off problems I noticed with the production. Sometimes Proof just nails the drum machine, and sometimes it doesn't sound human enough. And this is one of the latter cases.
I also had an issue with the production because it sounds like like himself and the singing and like the voice is like behind the beat.
Yes.
And like the beat is like more in the forefront of it, and it doesn't balance. It's like he's too quiet. Yeah.
I think one of the things that also happened was they have that kind of sampled choir that they're using, or choral sounds, and that's just not very well sampled, I find. It's really muffled, really in the background. It's not clear at all, and it just sounds very amateurish, which hurts this track a lot. And, you know, conceptually, I don't feel like this track really was focused in a way that pulled me in. So I only gave it a 3.25.
Okay.
That's okay.
I
have to agree with Mike. Brilliant, Mike.
As much as like, you know, I gave it shit, you know, production quality, I did really like the song. It's my second favorite on the album. I gave it a 4.5.
Cool.
Wow, nice. So all my people in the 313, put your hands up
and follow me.
We're not from there.
Before anyone says anything, my favorite line on the album is, I'll send a rapper back with the crack of his ass shitty. Like, he encounters Eminem and he just gets so scared shitless he runs away with his shitty ass. And the way he put it together like that is really fucking clever.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever heard anything like quite worded like that in regards to that subject in my life. So I enjoyed that. But no, this is they're the dopest MCs in the 313. You have Q actually getting a proper full-on verse. He's good. He's good lines. It's a longer verse than I would have liked. I felt like by the end it was a little droning on, but it's good shit. Like, everything that you collaborate, I lacerate, my rhymes keep coming, my nymphomaniacs that masturbate, like, and I was like, it's cool, it's fun, it's quirky, it's clever, but it's also not necessarily anything there that was over the top and really made me want to go back to it. Even Eminem's, it's not like great. It's not when I say mean, it's not like it's bad, but aside from So What You Know About a Sweet MC in the 313, you don't know shit. So when you see one flee, you can't be the Run D, you'll never be the MC. I stopped the alphabet at S and got it down to a T. Like, I really like that. And then nothing else in the verse really snared me or whatnot. So I felt like they were flossing, but it was less rhymey. More of like sentence structures and more of like it wasn't so much of the tricky shit that he's been doing the whole way through. And to me so far, it's been that insane tricky shit, like that fucking, like, I don't know,
well,
big
Eminem has like
level
killer
of complexity
lines
to the rhyming, right? And as much as he has lines, this is more about the puns and the wit, and I don't like it as much. Be that as it may, it's really well constructed, and I gave this a 4. I really did, because I can see the value of it. The beat's better. It's got a good flow to it. It's totally like, this is where I'm from, and respect and whatnot. But weirdly enough, as much as I gave it a 4, I don't really see myself going back to this one as much as maybe, I don't know, even tonight I kind of dug a little bit more than this. Mostly because the concept is just another track about why we dope. And they prove it, but not as well as the other tracks.
Okay, that's fair.
That's my thoughts.
I mean, it was what it was. It was Kill or Be Killed, kind of like of a song, of a battle rap, but like, you know, why, if you're gonna challenge them, like, they're gonna destroy you. And they're from the 313, and that's pretty much it. So I mean, it was good. The rhymes were fine. I mean, it's all good. I gave it a 4 on 5. It was all right.
So I thought that this song had some better production than some of the other ones we've heard. You know, the percussion really hits here, and I like that. And it's got this kind of creepy, distorted keyboard sound in the background that I found pretty cool. The only thing that I found really hurt the production was the hook has this sax that pops up, and it kind of fucks with the cool tone that the song has otherwise.
Oh, interesting. I liked the sax, like, especially like at the end, like it was noticeable, and I don't know. I mean, I thought it did a good job, but that's interesting that you were like, no, it doesn't mix well. I didn't have to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, I didn't find it did, but I otherwise liked the production here, and I was impressed by Eye-Kyu. He is the one I was referencing earlier on in the review, where I think he's one of the only ones who kind of, next to Eminem, still kind of sounds like he holds his own, because he is, you know, he is maybe not as good delivery, but he has similarly dense rhyme structure.
Yes.
And he manages to kind of keep up, and that's to his credit, I think. But overall, this is another song that I don't know. Like this song I have mixed feelings on. I like the production, but I feel like the lyrics just don't pull me in enough. I think I'd give this more of like a 3.6.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about Maxine. Murder, She Wrote.
This in life, that is, to get with every brother and then bear one of his kids. Shit.
So, this one is kind of a reference to that lady Maxine from that Murder, She Wrote song by that guy whose name I couldn't pronounce, so I chose not to say it. And it starts with like a call from Maxine, and she's like, yo, I'm down to fuck, and blah, 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 blah. And then it kind of goes into the different verses. It's featuring Con Artist or Mr. Porter at this time, or
Denon
Porter. He's got multiple
So,
names depending on where you're at.
Okay, I think what happened was when this album came out, he actually probably went under Con Artist. After the fact, he tried to rebrand himself as Denon Porter, which is his real name, or Mr. Porter.
Yeah.
And
Mr.
so,
Porter is how I thought he was as a solo artist.
yeah, that is what he did when he like split from D12. He kind of tried to change the branding.
Okay.
I put it in the credits below as Mr. Porter because that's how today's name. But yeah, I don't know if he was Con Artist back then. Because they hadn't really formed D12 at that point, had they?
They had not.
Yeah.
So I know that because Con Artist was like his D12 personality. I mean, I could be completely wrong, which would be cool if any of y'all could like tell us because we love learning. I don't know. And then I feel like there wasn't a lot that like grabbed me from this track in terms of specific lyrics. I did like the one that was "You wanna be with me, but how can you say that?" Well, sorry, I didn't like this line. You want to be with me, but how can you say that when you got hiding in your closet? And the word closet, and it was from Con Artist or whatever, and it was just such a, it didn't rhyme, it didn't fit the flow, it broke the flow actually. So I actually took that line because it was not pleasant.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, Three's verse is pretty good. I liked him. I liked his voice. He kind of, oddly enough,
Well, he's the one who
reminded
calls
me
her
a bit of Cannabis in his like high pitched kind of voice. Or
Yeah,
whatever,
I felt similarly.
which was like funny because of all of his hatred towards Cannabis later on. And then at the end, like we find out she does have AIDS or whatever.
Well, she has
or-
AIDS when she's, actually about to have sex with someone and whatever, and she like tells them, and then like that's the end of that. And then
well, he calls her on it, and then she's like, "Well, if I have it, you have it."
no. Like even at the
no?
beginning, like she's going to tell. I think it's Denon that she just wants to let him know before they have sex that she has AIDS, and whatever. And then the Three guy calls Maxine and is like, listen, like he wants to like hook up, but he just wants to make it clear. He's like, if you do this, if you, blow me or whatever, like there's going to be a fee for it. And he's like, yeah, but you have AIDS. And then, and, she's like, well, where did you hear that from? And he was like, Denon. And he's like, he wouldn't lie. And then she's like, no, like if he's got it, then, he got it from someone else. And like, so she denies having it, but she clearly told him.
Yeah.
That this was it. And so like it was just interesting that like he's brought up AIDS in a couple of his other songs, and like so I think it's just like
I wonder if he knows somebody who got hit.
yeah, I'm like I don't know, it's
Somebody
just
personal to him.
it's interesting, but I don't know, it was all right, this song.
This was my like least favorite song.
It was my least favorite
So
song
far.
as well. Yeah.
I don't know for the whole album, but it's pretty low on it. I was like a 3.
Yeah, I
I'm
gave it a
like-
3 too.
Like it's the production doesn't save it.
No.
Unfortunately, Mr. Porter's verse was not great. I do like 3 and Shady's verse, but we're talking about 96 Shady, so it's like a substandard Eminem verse here. Like it's not great. It's again where you were describing before, where the concept is dope, but the delivery of that concept into this song, it's more like, oh, it's a good concept.
Yeah. The for me the weakest part of it is the fact that the two supporting artists who come in I don't find either of them do a very good job. I would say that, in particularly Mr. Porter, aka Con Artist, like is not very good. And 3, I liked his voice. The voice was like really interesting to me, which is good, but I didn't think that he said very much that was interesting, and he didn't really pull me in.
Okay.
So that's why I gave it a 3. And yeah, I also think there's like this magnetic pull to Eminem's voice, even on the tracks that aren't very good. And so, you know, it's still kind of interesting, but it falls short for me.
All right, I gave this one a 3.5, so yeah, similar.
All right. Who wants to go to an open mic?
Let's do it.
I start to man, so unless you want what he got, you better set the mic down. I'm steaming like a tea.
So right away coming into this, the production is dope, in my opinion. I think it's the best so far in the album for me. I really like this ambient, bassy synth in the background. And I also like the kind of odd bendy strings that they have during the hook. And to top it off, you know, the hook, I think, is like one of the catchiest ones just because there's so much personality in the way it's
He
belted
yells it.
out, right?
Time who does it?
Yeah, Thyme who does it. You know, who the fuck passed you the mic and said that you can flow? Point him out. Man, I want to know. But he says it with such character and pizzazz. It's
Yep.
like, yeah, I get into it. And then, you know, the whole thing is like really just so dense with rhymes from Eminem. This is like his I think like battle song. He has like a few that are kind of like that, but I feel like this one in particular.
Yeah.
And quick context. So he used to go with Proof and some other guys to this place called the hip hop. What was it called? The hip hop. I wrote it down somewhere here. Hip hop store. Hip hop. There was like this place that they go that was like it was meant to be a store where they sold clothes and fashion.
Okay.
But it ended up being known for the fact that they would have these like open mic nights on Saturday afternoons.
That's cool.
And so I think that's what this is a reference to, because at the time that would have been what they were doing. Proof would even host a lot of those events.
That's cool.
So I took the chorus kind of like, this is what people were saying to Shady when he would try to get up on the mic. And then these verses are his retaliation. Oh, yeah, I got the mic, and let me just, like, prove it to you. Now
Well,
that
I mean,
got
he
this
goes to
opportunity.
show that he's not just, I mean, he's a new rapper and he has to prove himself, but, like, he obviously does. He's ready to kill it.
Like, and when a slugfest, I get physical like physicians, invisible like magicians with mystical mic traditions.
Yeah.
Wicked wizardry like a sorcerer, no remorse for you when I torture you throughout the course of my orchestra. I was just like, damn, that's what I wrote. I wrote the word
Yeah.
damn because it just hit. Or like, intellectually superior, I'll make the whack wearier, inferior, deteriorate like bacteria. And it's just like, it's this insane rhyming where like you just listen to the way he's putting these words together, and it's truly magical. But I really, like, as much as Thyme does this really animated chorus, his voice kind of got under my skin a bit. The general introduction and premise of the song are really cool. I didn't really like the beat, even if it was better produced. So like, it's a higher quality production, sure, but it did. Like, I feel like the best part of this song is Eminem's rhyming, as has been the case in pretty much this whole
Yeah.
album
Yeah.
so far. And this one just doesn't do it as much for me. The whole package doesn't feel right. Like, anytime the hook came on, and I get the point of it, and I'm not saying it's a bad hook. I'm saying that I don't really like it that much.
Well,
This
I
is
just
a
wrote
preference thing for me.
down,
That's fair.
Thyme yells a lot.
I mean,
And I was like, eh.
Hey, who the fuck passed you the mic?
Right? But I mean, it was all right. I mean, it wasn't great, but I mean, yeah, same sort of thing. Like Eminem, like killed it and like kind of like kept it alive, but the other guy's just like yelling the whole time. Yeah.
For me, it's a 3.5. It's not like it's bad by any means whatsoever, but given all the others, I mean, again, this is a hindsight thing, so it's hard for me to go listen to this and be like, this is amazing. Because it's not. It's interesting is a better way to describe this than amazing.
Yeah, I also gave it a 3.5.
For me, this is actually, I think, my favorite track on the album now. I would give it a 4.3, and it's very possible that this is like one of the only tracks that I would go back and actually continue to listen to today
Cool.
routinely.
Well, as Eminem taught us, it's never too far to change your mind or something.
Misery. I'm not wishing to be another fish in the sea, but just an MC, so listen to me.
So they're sitting there discussing finding bus money to get on the bus. And
15 cents. They couldn't rub together 15 cents.
And they're describing the frustration. I think it's Mr. Porter, and he's like, I'm 21 and I still live with my moms and shit. And like they're all just.
Oh, I thought it was Eminem that said that.
I'm pretty sure it's the other one that said it. I could be wrong.
Maybe.
Especially if Eminem's 24. Anyway, so they're just kind of stressed and whatever. Then they kind of flips into this track about what they're gonna do to get money and whatnot, right? And I really like, I'm not about to chance it and dismiss handling business. I'm canceling Christmas to gamble and risk this financial interest is the matter at hand. I got an adequate plan for a stab at $1,000. And she's like, man, he's gonna like go as far as to cancel Christmas and do whatever he's got to do just to put shit in place, just to maybe make back $1,000, just to maybe get that small opportunity for like he's so at this place of hustle and grind mode where
And he's just dreaming. He just wants to get out and make it big and make $1 million. That's all he wants.
It's also, it feels very optimistic as well, because
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it's unobtainable. It more feels like, you're never too far from revenue. It's always accessible if you're ready to hustle, kind of like.
And like it's also like interestingly, it's not about being a thug or anything like that. He wants to do it clean, right? He's like, instead of hunted or being wanted as fugitives, it's all about a man planning what his future is, what he can do for his to be a star. And it's just like, whoa. He realizes this is what he can do, but he believes that as long as anyone's out there on their hustle and grind doing what they got to be doing, you'll get that money. Keep your head up. And it's pretty freaking interesting to see a guy like, again, this is where like that case study of when you listen to these words and you think, this is a guy who really never gave up, and look what happened to him. Obviously most of us are not going to propel to that level of stardom and whatnot, but I love the message of this song. But the interludes and the skits kind of got a bit much for me, because it's one of those tracks where
fair.
when you're like, the skits are okay, and I know lots of people love putting these interlope skits into their tracks like that, but for me it takes away from the flow. I like the beat. The beat's pretty good, this one. I don't have any real issues with that. I give it a 3.5. I think if it didn't have those skits in the middle of the track, it's not so much the first one, it's the one in the middle of the track that really just ruined the vibe for me.
Right.
Okay.
And then if it wasn't for that, I would have probably given it a higher mark.
What do you think?
I mean, I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was about like, his dreams and like all he wanted to do. He wants to stop taking the bus, and he just, he can't give him his 15 cents because, he's got the bus money, and he's just sick of all that life. He just wants like to have a car and to like be able to have Christmas and like, like all these things, and like he just wants to be a king, and he knows that he's got to, keep grinding, and that he's got to do it, and it's all on him, and it doesn't matter what anybody else does. He just has to be him and keep working hard, and he's gonna make it, and like he's gonna make that $1 million that he wants to make, and he did. So awesome. So I gave this one a 4 on 5.
Okay.
Cool. I found, for me, it was unfortunate. I felt like there was a drop back to the kind of production quality and type of before open mic, and that brought this track down for me, because it just the production didn't catch with me like that one did. I feel like this is the point where Eminem's still trying to find his sound, and some of the tracks I feel like he gets closer than others. Like open mic, I do feel like he was a little bit closer to finding a signature
Never too far.
sound. Yeah. This one I didn't feel that way. I felt like this was a little bit closer to Nas and his inspirations, and it feels like he's just experimenting, and this is the thing that he tried. It's okay, but I don't really love it. I give it a 3.25.
Okay.
Well, he was, as you said, searching for his signature style.
A couple of reasons that I'm suffering and grieving for loving and leaving. You're all I'm thinking of.
I didn't write down a lot of lyrics from this one, because the whole fucking song is just so sweet and nice and pleasant, and like the theme is just so romantic and pretty. Well, at least Eminem is romantic. Like his whole verse is like, I want to wife you in eternalness, and like also it's like the opposite of Superman. It's like literally, if Eminem listens to this and then listens to Superman, it's like full 180.
It's like the opposite of the rest of his career.
That's true.
And then Mr. Porter wants a little bit more of the sex than anything else, is the way he kind of describes it. Lingerie is, fine.
But he wants to woo her, and I think he wants to be wooed.
He's still a gentleman about it. Like, it isn't so callous.
Yeah.
It's very top class. I'm with Eminem. It's classy. It's respectable. It's proper. Apparently, this was the only song off the album to really
Get radio play?
And that is from an excerpt in Debbie Mathers' book, because she wrote a book about
Really?
Eminem and everything. I found that out today. Debbie Mathers wrote a book, and I'm kind of curious to read her side of the story. Just saying. But yeah, so apparently Searchin got some radio play, and that was it off this album. And it's clean. I love the production on this track. I love the flows. Honestly, this put a smile on my face. Like, you have to kind of pretend it's not Eminem for the song to make sense. But I really dig this one. It's one of the better ones on this album to me. Angela Workman does a beautiful chorus. It's really good. And I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 5. It's one of the best songs on the album.
I mean, it was nice. It was sweet. It wasn't, I mean, as much as, I don't know. Maybe I just don't like love songs. It wasn't that great for me. Like, I didn't think it was so wonderful. But I gave it a 3.5. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. I mean, I feel like you said a bunch of it.
Fuck love songs. 0. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I actually, it's this weird thing where this album, to me, a big part of its appeal is digging through the history of one of the most successful recording artists of all time and seeing his kind of like brushstrokes. As an artist, there's kind of this expression, hiding your brushstrokes, where some artists will try to make it appear like genius was born out of nothingness and they just appeared. Like Pablo Picasso did that, where he kind of didn't really show a lot of his earlier stuff, where he would do all these paintings and just throw a lot of them away, essentially. Yeah. With this album, we kind of see Eminem's already been working for a long time, and we don't know how much stuff he hasn't put out. But this is really like the first time he's putting something in the limelight that's directly him. And that, I find, is like the whole appeal of Infinite, is seeing early Eminem and kind of him learning about what it's like to be in the public eye or how to present himself. Yeah. This song in particular, I find so fascinating because it's the complete opposite of everything that he would become. This is him trying to be sweet and kind.
I think he's being nice to Kim, right?
Yeah, it's very
you're
possibly.
Like, oh, it's so weird.
It's very possible he's talking about Kim here. It seems likely because I think she was pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is something that's crazy when you think about what happens later. And a part
really
of me
loved
looks,
her, I guess.
Yeah, at some point. I mean, I think they had extreme passion and it was just really volatile. But, it's just funny to me because I wonder when I see this if this was like him at a point in the relationship where he was deceiving himself, or if he was being, naive about it, or if what happened is later on he just realized, oh, looking like a crazy maniac who hates his ex-girlfriend is more interesting to people and sells better, because
That's
that
fair.
seems to be the reality.
Because in some of the other songs on this album, he talks about, wanting to get old and have a marriage and, have a, be a husband and be a father and stuff like that.
Heart smashed yet.
Yeah, of course. And so, I mean, it's relevant to this song that this is what he wants.
If you look at like this, they're probably still young and happy, and then they cheat on each other and life goes crazy.
Yeah.
And that's when the rest of it comes, is after they've had turbulence in their life. And I think this is just their relationship at the very beginning, before all the dark stuff came.
Yeah.
True. The production didn't do much for me here. I think I enjoy this song, mostly just to see kind of a really authentic young Eminem and an attempt at an authentic love song from Eminem. It seems like something that you wouldn't have expected to see, but I think it's cool that it was there, and I thought that Carnage Artist actually did a pretty good job fitting into this track. I thought he did a better job than on the other one. I give it a 3.3. I still don't really love it that much, but I do find it very interesting.
Cool.
All
right, let's check out a Backstabber.
Okay.
Command post, and most of all, be advised that he's wise. He could be disguised as one of your.
So we have a whole new song structure format here. With
Yeah.
The multiple short verses, which didn't live much past the 90s and just kind of seems to have faded out of all existence. Like those little 4 or 8 bar verses instead of like 16s. Anyway. So, and then this is apparently a continuation of some other Backstabber song from that group he was last in.
Yeah,
And,
that had proof on it, right?
and and it's basically like about this particular rapper who tried to bang Kim.
Champ Town.
Yeah,
Oh,
and he
interesting.
had green hair, and so there were some shots there. And then I don't know, it's okay. I mean, it's about just guys trying to fuck your girl and general backstabbing, and most of all, be advised that he's wise. He could be disguised as one of your own guys. You know, just lines.
Yeah,
like
don't
that,
trust
or-
even your friends.
Then I don't know, like dealing with backstabbers, there was this one thing I learned. They're only powerful when you got your back turned. I yearn for the day that we finally meet so I can give him a taste of his own medicine. And it's like, it's pretty good storytelling, but I feel like the rhyming took some serious hits, and it was more like he wanted to make this song to like,
Get him back.
yeah, rather than try to be great. Like his story, like I really like the I followed the voice that led down a flight of steps, sneezing at dust and swinging at the spider webs.
Well,
It's
he's
okay.
following him to try and find
Yeah.
him, right?
And like it's okay, and like you get kind of caught up, but I feel like it tries to do so much, but does very little with this narrative. And it's just kind of Eminem mad that some guy tried to bang his girl, and like it feels like Eminem's just mad that some guy tried to bang his girl. And I didn't get much more out of it. Like it's clever, it's quirky. I don't want to say it's bad.
Yeah.
But I give it a 4. It's an interesting song. There's not a lot of criticism, but there's not a lot of draw. Like I like it better than some of the more boring ones because it's got creativity behind it. But
Yeah.
at this point, I'm almost like, okay, we're 10 tracks in or whatever. My enthusiasm for this album has kind of like lingered a bit. Like I honestly, if I had not listened to the next song based on what I've heard, I'm like okay turning the album off with where I'm at this track. Not because it's bad, because it's so hard to listen to Eminem now when he sounds like this.
Yeah, it all does kind of blend in together. The songs on this album sound very similar in both production and kind of tone, so
Yeah.
I agree. What did you think?
I mean, it was the same sort of thing. It wasn't my favorite. It was just about like getting revenge on this guy and like getting him back before, you know, all the shit that he's done and the backstabbing if, you know, if he is like one of his friends. And at the beginning, I think he talks about like, you know, like the police are looking for someone with green hair and like, you know, they're looking for him. And I don't know who this Champ Town was. I didn't get to look him up, but like he's obviously like a friend or someone that like Eminem knows. And, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was all right. Like the last 2 tracks for me, like they're not the best. I gave it a 3 on 5.
For me, I think this track suffers from production that is way too similar to the rest of the album, and you know, very mediocre. It's a big problem here. One of the things I appreciated though was both the change up in song structure from the rest of the album, as well as the storytelling here. We kind of get a glimpse at the type of storytelling Eminem is going to have when he gets big.
Yeah.
He's almost there in a lot of ways, right? This kind of using like hyperbole, heavy exaggerations. He's taking this real story of someone trying to like fuck his girlfriend, and he is
Like following her with like a magnifying glass, and like you can just kind of like imagine like the Pink Panther kind of like dang, like he's like following this guy and he's trying to be like a detective or whatever.
right. And he's got lines in there about like, this is a person who's loose from the psychiatric ward. He'll stab you with a sword. Don't be fooled by his charm. Right. Like it's all just metaphor, and it's like there's this, it's on the brink of him hitting that point that he's almost at where he's going to blow up because he has this kind of genius to him. But it does kind of fall short just because that production I find is so weak. Other than that, I don't have much to say on it. I gave this a 3.4.
All right, one left, and it's
Jealousy woes.
2.
Information and you tell your friend you plan on dumping me. So I'ma wait for your evacuation.
Apparently, the chorus is an interpolation of Ladies Love Cool James's Jam Jealous.
Okay.
And, yeah, he has this lady kind of talking about Eminem. Oh, he just jealous and, like, listing a bunch of shit. And then, again, Eminem responds with his verses. This call-response structure is a little prevalent on this album. I don't know. I thought it was so normal sounding. Like, I come inside and you pretend you miss me when you kiss me, then you diss me, and we strenuously fight continuously. Again, you frisk me for numbers trying to bust me. It must be only just because you never learned to trust me. Plus, we only squabble over irrelevant issues. And I was like, man, that just sounds like normal relationship annoying shit. Like it was not over the top. It wasn't crazy. It's just like Eminem's just a regular guy trying to regularly live, and this annoying woman just nagging at him and stuff. And I was like, man, the normalness of this song, like, it's almost like this walking cliche of man complaining about woman who complains about man. And
But like, yeah, that's exactly it. Because she's talking like shit about Eminem, you know, because obviously she's pissed off with him or whatever. And then like he's kind of like, I'm better than any guy that you're ever gonna be with, and I think she realizes that. And so it's sort of just like, okay.
This song did a lot less for me. Like, it was a very underwhelming end to this album. Like, we just had the Dope Love song, and now we have the Eminem's ex-girlfriend's Jealous song. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe this was all relevant to stuff he was dealing with on the regular. I don't know. This one did a lot. I don't know, 3.5. It's well executed, but kind of boring.
Yeah, I gave it a 3 as well. It's sort of, I mean, it wasn't anything great. It didn't stand out. It wasn't, he's just, I don't know, he just sounds so young on it. And like, I don't know, there's that.
I think one of the questions I have is this song directed at Kim, who he, like, 3 tracks ago had this super sweet song about?
Yeah.
If I were to take a guess, it might be like one of those ex-girlfriends, like the Foolish Pride girl or somebody like that. Like, just one of these
You think
people.
so?
Yeah, I mean, it seems weird that it would be about Kim. I mean, to me, it sounded like he used some black girl. Like, at the time, like, I don't know, maybe he'd had bad experiences and he was dealing with this. He had ex-girlfriends or something running around, but I didn't get the feeling that this was about Kim.
I don't, it's hard to tell, really. He does talk about coming home to someone after working double shifts, though. And, you know, if he's 24 years old at the time and his wife is pregnant, how many other women has he gone home to at this stage in his life? And my guess is kind of probably not any. That would be my assumption.
That's fair, that's fair.
I mean, he wasn't exactly like the guy who was living at home his whole life. He kind of probably bounced out and moved around. Like, I don't have a lot of knowledge of this period of his life before he got famous, but I do know that he has dated more than just Kim.
Brittany Murphy, for example, from 8 Mile.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
But anyway, I mean, maybe it's about Kim.
I will say that one thing this track has going for it is that the production is a little bit more standout-ish than the rest of the album. It's got this kind of fun, funky bass with a lot of personality that carries this beat. And the drum beat is pretty on, too. I still wouldn't say it's particularly great, but it does stand out more than a lot of the rest of the project. And aside from that, you know, I don't really like love it. It's
all right.
No, I don't have a ton to say on it. You know,
Yeah.
I'd 3.4.
That's okay.
It's a 3, yeah.
I mean, we can wrap this one up then. I mean, this album, for me, it's a 3.86. Like, it's a good album. But look, if you're not really into Eminem, I would not recommend this to you. If you're into, like, a mid-90s hip-hop sound and you want, like, a decent album, it's a decent album. But considering what I've listened to since we've been reviewing albums, like, it's hard to be like, you know, Infinite's the shit. It's not. Infinite is a good archaeological exploration into the youth of, like, possibly your favorite rapper. Like, that would be why you go listen to Infinite, to learn, like you were saying.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. But honestly, I don't know if you should listen to the whole album. you're gonna like, for most people,
I mean, it's not that long to start with. I mean, it's only
you
like...
turn it even to that end. Like,
Yeah.
I bet most people turn this thing off halfway through rather than actually hearing it, because it's a great start, but it's a bit of a redundant experience, and by the end you're kind of like, oh, no, and that's how it ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave it a 3.81, so pretty close to what you gave it. I mean, it was great. It was nice to see, like, where he started from, and, that he had all these big dreams and he wanted to make a lot of money and he wanted to be successful and he wanted to like be a great dad and like all of this
Spoiler alert,
stuff.
He did.
Yeah, and like so it's just nice to like hear somebody like achieve their dreams and now that we know where he's at. But I mean it wasn't great, but I mean obviously he was like I said, selling it from like a back of a car and like whatever. I mean he was just doing whatever he could to get by and make this as much as make it, I guess. So I mean, yeah, there's some lesser songs on here, but I mean it's not great. It's not going to be the best, but I mean it was his start, and I thought it was good.
For me, this album has like a lot of nostalgia because I listened to it when I was young, and Eminem was at the time my favorite rapper who got me really into it. I think that when it was released, Eminem showcased a unique rapping style and skill set that would have been pretty rare at that time to that extent. He had these dense lyrical flows that would come to define him throughout his career. But Infinite was also kind of this learning ground that was ripe full of mistakes, including mediocre production quality. There's a lack of emotion and personality in his delivery. It's an interesting listen now to contrast with the work that would come even only a year later with the Slim Shady EP, which would lead to the LP and his kind of major
For
breakout.
the record, we're not going to cover the EP.
I just don't think that aside from like a couple of songs here, there's much worth coming back to unless you're a diehard Eminem fan.
Yeah.
I give this album a 3.5. And I'm also on my own channel going to do another review of this that includes some of the stuff we talked about. It's going to be a shorter form, but I'm also going to talk a bit more about the backstory and the aftermath of this album in Eminem's life. So by the time this comes out, it will probably be available if you guys want to check it out.
Cool.
My channel's in the description.
Yeah, and he'll give me a link if it's out, and then we'll put it in the link of this one. All
Cool.
right. So thank you everybody for watching. I know it's been a bunch of Eminem lately, but come on, it's a lot of buzz. It's the hot news.
Why not?
Hashtag Revival's not out yet, but is out now. So, but yeah. So if
Unless
you
it just
guys-
never comes out, then we're just never
Fuck,
gonna put
we're gonna look
this
silly.
Well, then we'll just have this review sitting here.
Archaeologists will find it like 10,000 years from now and
if
be
it's
like,
not
"Who is
called
this
Revival,
Eminem?"
and if it's called something else, then we'll look silly. Whatever, that's fine.
We anticipate you, Eminem.
But yeah, feel free to comment, like. Remember, you can win Amazon money.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Please do. Let us know what albums you care about us covering. It's we try to do requests. We're gonna look into ways to streamline requests for y'all in the future. And yeah, so keep the community alive. Correct us. We love it when you correct us.
And one last question that I have, which is, what did you guys think of Infinite, and how does it compare to you to what Eminem would become later? Do you think that it was a good album in comparison to his later work? Do you think you can see the growth? Did you like it more?
Did you like it more
why?
than Encore?
That's actually a very interesting question.
Like if you had
that's
to,
a question.
to rank
Yeah.
Infinite versus Encore, I'm saying Infinite. I know, but I'm just saying.
The thing though is that Encore actually has a few really good songs, like
But
Toy
it also
Soldiers.
has a few really bad songs, like Puke. I don't like Puke. You might like Puke. I don't like Puke. Now, I mean, I can say one thing about this. Even the worst song wasn't bad. It was just kind of fallen short.
That's
Yeah.
that's fair.
So that's why I'm going to say that. Anyway, we would love to hear your thoughts on all this and more. And you could even just provoke a new thought, awesome question. I said that bad, but new questions are welcome.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye.